according to St. Matthew.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus said to the disciples, "You have heard that was said to those of ancient times, 'You shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment.' But I say to you, if you are angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a brother or sister, you will be liable to the council. And if you say, 'You fool,' you will be liable to the hell of fire. So when you are offering your gift at the altar, if you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First, be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come and offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser when you are on the way to court with him, or your accuser may hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you'll be thrown into prison. Therefore I tell you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. You have heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit adultery.' But I say to you, everyone that looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to go into hell. It is also said, 'Whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce.' But I say to you, anyone who divorces his wife, except on the ground of unchastity, causes her to commit adultery. And whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Again, you have heard that it was said to those of ancient times, 'You shall not swear falsely, but carry out the vows you have made to the Lord.' But I say to you, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by earth, for it is the footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make one white hair white or black. Let your word be yes, yes, or no, no. Anything more than this comes from the evil one." The gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord.
You may be seated. Now, it would be quite easy, I know some people who could take something out of this gospel passage, just picked one or another, and they can use it like a hammer to condemn, to put others down, to show them their failures. But the thing is, if you look at the whole, you find we're all in the same boat. We all got stuff, we all have issues and problems. We err, we make mistakes, or the Bible simply calls it sin. St. Paul in one of his letters said, "All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God." No one is left out. But you know, some people, they seem to have the capacity to point at this other person, and they can let them know how far they have fallen, but not look at their own life. They fail to see. Like the Pharisees. The Pharisees of the New Testament, they are still with us today. And maybe you can think of those persons in your life who always seems to remember what you did wrong, and you were only 5 or 10 or 25. It's like they never realize that you grow up and you learn from your mistakes. If you never make a mistake, how are you ever going to learn? The kid who left home, the story of the prodigal son. Now we read that story, we know the kid who says, "Dad, I want my portion," even before you die. We know that's wrong. I've had to deal with that personally in my own family not that long ago. Someone asking for their inheritance, and I told my family member, I said, "That's just wrong." But that's what they want. And you know, in that story of the prodigal son, it didn't turn out well for him. He wasted it all. He was separated from his father, from his family, from the synagogue, from the whole community, because they all knew it was wrong. But what does the father do? The kid comes to his senses, he comes back home, and the father doesn't wait for the kid to say, "Now, Dad, I sinned against you and God." He throws a party. Bring the ring. Bring him shoes. Bring him a cloak. Bring him everything, and we're going to kill the fatted calf, and we're going to celebrate. My son who was lost is now found. There's some people that have trouble with that story. Like in the story, you find out there was a brother who stayed, and of course he did everything right. I think that's wrong. I was having a conversation the other day, and this one young woman said, you know, Pastor Herb, no one is perfect except the one. I said, you mean Jesus? She said, that's exactly who I mean. And it's Jesus who goes to the cross to die for everyone's wrongs and errors and omissions and commissions and their sins and their failures. For all of us, because we're all the same boat. Now, I know some people have been hurt by how some people have used some of the words in this gospel text because they went through a broken life, a broken relationship. Well, my family went through that. My parents were divorced at 16. Both of them got remarried. I know what that's like to be in a broken family and to suffer from that brokenness, and I know how children pay. But you know, those adults, they hurt too. If God sent his son to the cross, if his dying and rising doesn't take care of that, then we're all in the world of hurt. You see, it doesn't matter what it is that we got wrong in us. It's still wrong in us, and only Jesus could take care of that for all of us. And I like this. It says, you shall not murder. Okay, yeah, that's what they say in the commandments. But then Jesus says, he steps it up, raises the bar. But I say to you, if you're angry with your brother or sister, like in the community of the church or your family, we're in the same problem. Wait a minute. I didn't take a knife or a gun to take someone's life. I'm just upset with them, or I'm angry with them. I didn't like what they did. God, I need forgiveness for that. Yes. And that's why I say, Jesus, in giving us all of those descriptions, is saying we're all in the same boat. We all got the same problem of sin. Not that one is greater or lesser than the other. It all needs God's grace and love. That's why we have this cross here that reminds us. Jesus went to the cross and paid it for all, giving his all for everyone. But you know, in our relationships, sometimes we get out of sync with each other, with God, with one another. And here in the gospel, Jesus points out practical Christianity. What happens if you got a conflict or a problem with somebody? We heard earlier in Matthew 18 where Jesus said, if your brother or sister sins against you, go to that person, just the two of you, to work things out and to do it with love and care. And the idea is, what's broken, fix it. Fix it. Now, I can tell you, I got here by the grace of God, and as I was leaving the Sublime Congregation, I was 6/10 of a mile from turning onto 155, and of all things, I get a flat. I got to be here. We have baptism. We have people receive. We got a worship service. And some people know if I don't show, somebody's going to step up. I think I told Mary Ann today, you could end up preaching and presiding at communion and doing a baptism because God's people come to God's house and they expect things to be done. And if she didn't do it, well, I know Christy would step up and do that. Right? I mean, someone said, well, they can't do something like that. I said, it's easier to ask for forgiveness after the fact than ask for permission. We do things as the people of God to feed and care for each other. Well, my good fortune was I had friends at Sublime. I called and I said, David, can you pick me up? My tire is flat and I got things to do. On his way. Pick me up, drop me off here. And you know what the man said to me? He said, now, Pastor, this afternoon, if you want to come by, call me and we'll go fix it together. Fix it. I know I can't fix that truck. I know where the gas goes. I have a hard time figuring out how to take that spare tire off the way it is on my truck. But Jesus gives us, I think, a rather easy way to fix our broken relationships. He gives us his words. And it's like, if you remember someone has a problem with you, leave the gift at the altar and then go fix it. I don't know about you, but when I even think I'm at odds with somebody or someone has a problem with me, I don't know if they call it German guilt or Lutheran guilt or just human guilt. That weighs heavy upon me. I don't like that. And I can remember my first parish. My wife helped me one day, and everyone was going through the line, and everyone was asking something of me. It seemed like that. And there's this one lady, a jewel in Bible study and worship, a beautiful heart. And my wife, she used to help greet people when they go through the line, and she says, later at home, Herb, I think you were a little sharp with that lady. And you know what my first response was? No, it wasn't. Well, I certainly didn't realize it. And then I thought, well, you know, everyone was asking me, and I had no paper to write down anything. I got to remember everything. It was already a long week. And then I thought, maybe I was. I call that just bothered me so much. I could hear my wife's voice, and I could think of that lady, and my wife looks out for me. And I know that if she thought something maybe wasn't quite right, and she said that to me, I need to go tend to it. So I called the lady and I said, can we visit? And she said, sure, come on over. And when I told her, I said, I have to apologize for being sharp with you in the greeting line as we finished church. And she said, what? Well, I said, well, you know, when you went through and you were asking me, so I may not have been the nice, polite kind of guy that you're used to. And she said, what? She had no idea what I was talking about. She said, Pastor, you were fine. I said, well, I'll tell you what. If you will hear my confession and assure me of God's forgiveness, I think I will do better. Now, probably none of you ever heard of a pastor or priest going and doing that with a layperson. But it's there for us too. And when she assured me that even though she said nothing was wrong, even though she assured me things are okay, my spirits were lifted. And actually, I think we had a better, closer relationship than we had before. But God gives us these things of confession and absolution and the supper and the word to help us in our relationships. And so Jesus, he says, whether you're the person who did the wrong or you're the one who got wrong done to, it doesn't matter. You know, people spend their time blaming each other and fussing and sometimes yelling at each other. He says, it doesn't matter. You both have responsibility to what? Fix the relationship. And do it out of love. But he says it in such a way as we don't go talk about those wrongs and that brokenness out there in the world. We deal with it here at home. One-on-one. And Jesus even said, if the person doesn't believe you, doesn't respond, take a couple others you trust of faith. If that doesn't work, you take it to the church. Now, can you imagine? People have a conflict or problem, and we just bring it right here in the Christian community. We're all going to deal with it as believers. And the only reason we would do such a thing is we do it out of love. We don't like that brokenness when it's between family members or friends or people at church. And Jesus says there's a way to fix that with love. Now, I was preaching on this text before, and I had a lady in another congregation. She later came and talked to me and said, Pastor Herb, that just hit my heart. She said, you were talking about me. I said, I had no idea what she was talking about. She had married a nice young man in the congregation. She and her mother-in-law did not get along. When there was a breakfast to be had on Sunday morning, after or before church, guess who didn't get invited? The daughter-in-law. Daughter-in-law was a beautiful, nice person. But you know, sometimes when you marry a kid in the family, it's like losing that loved one. And there was always that tension. And she said, Pastor, I had to go to my mother-in-law. I had to go talk to her. I had to make things right. And you know what her mother-in-law, who was also in the congregation, thought, apparently after that sermon? She said, you were talking to me, Pastor Herb. Both of them managed to get together, and guess who eats breakfast together now after or before church? Those two women. Because God encourages us to come together and to fix what is broken. And God sent his Son to us that we might come together when he goes on a cross and is resurrected on that third day, so that we can continue to come together in the spirit of love. Because God can fix what we can't. And then God gives us the tools we need to use in our relationships, in the everyday tools that this little child who's going to be baptized today, she's going to need those. Because she's probably in her lifetime going to encounter someone that maybe doesn't agree with her, maybe hurts her feelings or does something wrong. How's she going to fix it? By what we teach her from the scriptures. Jesus has given a way to help and to heal and to mend. Jesus does it for us and God with the cross and empowers us to do the same thing. And we do it all because of love. Why did God send his Son? For God so loved the world. Why do we love and care for each other? For God so loved the world. God did it for us first. And God has shown us the way we ought to be with each other. You know how people out in the world, they fuss and they fight, and it doesn't take much to write someone off from a relationship? That's not how it's to be for people of faith. No, we hear how we're to fix it, and then we do it. So this afternoon, think about me and my friends were out fixing a flat tire out on the road. But think about how you have the tools. We'll have tools. You have the tools to fix what's broken in you with some other person because of Jesus' words. Amen. And now may the peace of God that surpasses all human understanding keep our hearts and minds in Jesus our Lord.